Okay, cool. Awesome. You ready to go now?
Perfect. Let's go.
Awesome. Thanks, Juan. Peace out. All right, yeah, just make sure it's being recorded and then send it to me after. Okay, cool. We're getting to go in 1, 2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the Cortalinhas podcast. I'm your host, Zach Lowy, here today with a very special guest, Tiago Sassetti, who is creator of O Fura Redes, a very well-recognized football blog that details Benfica as well as international football. Super excited to have you on, Tiago. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Zach. You're very nice about the well-recognized blog. Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. As everybody who listens to the Cortalinhas podcast will know, we do not just discuss Benfica, Porto, and Sporting, but really all things concerning the Primeira Liga. So after a real jam-packed week that saw a lot of interesting matchups, Sporting, Benfica, Porto Portimonense, as well as the Champions League and Europa League, some might think that we would go down a notch, but we've actually got a lot of stuff to talk about. Specifically, we have a lot of stuff to talk about with regards to managers. Okay, it seems like the biggest theme right now is managers that may be coming and going. We've seen a lot of managerial changes over the past few weeks. I know, Tiago, even your club, Benfica, some disagreements as to whether or not Jorge Jesus will remain for the full season. But just in the past few weeks, we've seen João Pedro Sousa depart Boa Vista for a lucrative offer in the Middle East. Okay, we've seen with regards to Marítimo in Madeira, we've seen Julio Velasquez depart and Vasco Seabra coming in as manager. Santa Clara looks like they are actually going to go with their third manager of this season. So originally it was Daniel Ramos who had guided them to their first ever European qualification. He departed as well to the Middle East and was replaced by Nuno Campos. Nuno Campos, after 3 victories, 1 tie, and 5 defeats, is now out of the command at Santa Clara. So I believe this was his first job as a head coach, and he had previously served as Paulo Fonseca's assistant. So a lot of stuff to discuss. I do want to talk a little bit about Santa Clara though, because this is a team. I was watching their game against Marítimo, and let's not forget this is a team that finished 6th in the league last season. That was, gradually building up to something special, and ended up selling Carlos Jr. To another Middle Eastern club, selling Fabio Cardoso to Porto, nearly sold Hidemasa Morita to Fenerbahce, and are now 16th in the league. 16th in the league, but keynote here is Moreirense and Belenenses both have a game in hand. Both of them can leapfrog Santa Clara in the league with a win, and Santa Clara would theoretically be bottom of the league, losing 4-1 to Marítimo. Yes. So before we get into Marítimo and how things are going at the Funchal, let's talk a little bit about this Santa Clara side. There are some talents here. I pointed out Kisan on the last episode of the Cortalinhas podcast. You've also got like Hidemasa Morita and Lincoln, but things are not going very well for Santa Clara, and Nuno Campos has paid the price. What is your take of the Santa Clara team? How do we turn things around in the Azores, and who do you think should be the next coach of the Açorianos?
Yeah, I think Santa Clara is a typical example of the Portuguese reality. So you have a good season, when you have a good season, you have a good coach and you have a good and a lot of good players, and then the next the next season, probably you are like Santa Clara in a playoff to go to a UEFA competition, and you have a different reality. Everybody knows that at this level of Santa Clara level, it's really different playing 3 and 3 days or 7 and 7 days. So and next to this new reality of games, you have your best players leaving, you have your coach probably also leaving. So normally a small team in Portugal or a medium team in Portugal that do a good season, the next season is struggling to stay in the first league. This is this is usual in Portugal. It's normal. I will argue that it should not be normal, but it is the way it is. So you have these two problems. You have a lot of games. You have a lot of key players leaving, and you're probably your coach too. And all this together always goes to in the next season you are struggling to stay in the top flight. Um, so Santa Clara is really struggling. I think the only good game they had was against Porto in Aliança Cup in Taça da Liga, where they are already qualified for the final four. But was a game that Porto played half of the game with the reserve team. I think they won against Aroca two 2 days ago, two match days ago. But Aroca, I saw them yesterday against Vizela, and they really are struggling with that defense. So Aroca also are struggling, and so for the rest of the results of Santa Clara, it's been a long months since I don't know, since probably since October. How to get out of this? This is going to be a tough, as I said, it's going to be a tough year for Santa Clara. So they will have tough results, and they will have to find a team, and have to find some way of coming together and to win points, because it's not going to be an easy season. So they have like 10 points probably to get out of the mess of they have to make like 20 points more. So a lot of points for Santa Clara. I don't know if they can make it.
Yeah, it does not look good for Santa Clara. I personally think they will be relegated at the end of the season. Ended a 15-year exile from the first division in 2018 under Carlos Pinto. João Enriquez coming in to lead them to back-to-back 10th place finishes, who left in 2020. And then Daniel Ramos really led them to their best ever season, qualifying the Europa Conference League, where they were beaten on aggregate by Partizan in the final round. So does not look good for them. As we've mentioned, since coming up in 2018, they've really been forced to sell a lot of key players. Caio to Krasnodar, Thiago Santana to Shimizu St. Pulse in Japan, and Fabio Cardozo and Zaidu Sanusi both going to Porto. None more important, I would argue, than losing their all-time top goal scorer, Carlos Jr., right after the season ended, in fact, in, I believe, October. Yeah. So it does not look good for them. I actually would not be surprised to see João Enriquez coming back and trying to survive this storm.
Yeah, I can see
Obviously,
that.
just left Moreirense. But who do you think is going to be Santa Clara's next departure? Do you think we could see another big departure coming up in January?
Well, that I don't know, Zach. Some key player that they can find. You're asking me.
Yep.
I don't know. For Santa Clara, I really see some problems in the defense. They are suffering a lot of goals, so probably they will have to go that zone of the field. But
Right.
tough to me to answer that question. Sorry.
Santa Clara, though, taking the lead in, I believe, 30 seconds into the game via Crisan, who you pointed out in the last Cortalinhas podcast. Marítimo getting 2 goals in getting 2 goals before halftime and coming up with a 4-1 win. A lot to highlight here, but what have you made of the first 3 games of Marítimo under Vasco Seabra, getting a win against Paços de Ferreira, a draw to Boavista, and a very impressive 4-1 victory against Santa Clara, currently 9th in the league. What have you made of this Marítimo side under Vasco Seabra?
Yeah, it's still early in this reign of the Vasco Seabra, but I have to say it's been great. So 7 points in 3 games, it's perfect. This is the Marítimo that we are used to. Marítimo plays normally very tough games in Funchal, where they make a lot of points. And these results of Vasco are being great. They're playing good. To draw in Boavista, it's a good result. Boavista made a good game now in Estádio de Alvalade, so they have a good team, and the 2 wins in Madeira are clearly the Marítimo style. They like to be a tough team in Funchal, and they are able to do so. 7 points in 3 games. They had 7 points in the last. I'm counting here. In the last, I don't know, 10 games, they had also 7 points. So it's been perfect. And a true reminder that sometimes the change of a coach, it's it's the easy way out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Marítimo currently 9th in the league. Gil Vicente 6 points ahead of them with 20 points in 8th place. Gil Vicente coming up with literally a last second winner in the dying seconds of their match from Antoine Leote to defeat Paços de Ferreira. Paços, let's not forget, they finished 5th in the league last season under Pepa. Obviously, losing their manager Pepa to Vitória de Guimarães is a massive blow for them. But in general, unlike Santa Clara, who also finished in European positions, Paços were able to keep the majority of their players from that team. I think the only starter, if I'm not mistaken, who left Paços was Bruno Costa, departing from his loan and going to Porto. Apart from that, I'm not sure what other players if they lost any other starters. Or Douglas Tank, of course,
Douglas Tank,
top scorer. They lost him, as well as Luther Singh. So yeah, fair
Luther
enough.
Singh, was playing some good football, and
he was also on loan from
Eustáquio also Eustáquio. I know Eustáquio is still playing in Paços.
They kept hold of Eustáquio. So in general, I think that yes, losing some players, some big players, but I think doing enough to keep hold of the majority of that spine, and yet been a very poor season for Paços de Ferreira. Very poor month, shall we say. Losing to Sporting, losing to Benfica in the Taça de Portugal, and then 3 straight losses to Marítimo, Vitória de Guimarães, and now Gil Vicente. So the Beavers are currently 14th in the league, albeit just 2 points away from relegation, 1 point away from the relegation playoff spot. And it does look like George Simão, who was brought in to replace Pepa, is on his way out. And in fact, that has been another a managerial merry-go-round in of itself. We're talking a lot about managers, but the Paços job has been kind of pretty crazy. There were some rumors that Ricardo Sapinto, former Sporting manager, was set to take the position. Now it seems like there's no agreement. They turned their eye to Cesar Peixoto, and yet it seemed like that also broke down, according to the reliable Pedro Sepúlveda. Really not sure who is going to be Passos' manager for their upcoming match against Tondela. João Pedro Sousa has also been mentioned, who left his job at Boa Vista, and yet interesting, just a little detour with regards to João Pedro Sousa. He left his job at Boa Vista after receiving I believe he called it an unrejectable, irrefusable offer from the Middle East. And yet 11 days later, João Pedro Sousa still has not been announced as the manager of Al Rayed. So not really sure what's going on with that. But actually the manager of that club, Paulo Machín, former Sporting manager, has not accepted the terms of his contract rescission, and the championship, the Arabic Championship, has actually been put on pause. The last game, I believe, was November 25th, and the next one will be on December 20th. So kind of a purgatory there. But it is interesting because there's a potential for, maybe João Pedro decides he's had enough waiting. He wants to go back to Portugal and accept a job like Passos. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. But with regards to Passos, what do you think has gone wrong for them so far to go from 5th in the league to currently 14th and fighting relegation?
Yeah, tough to answer. The Passos has a better team than this position. They really struggle since October, and they have like one win in the Taça de Portugal since late August. So this is really a bad phase for Passos Ferreira. They don't concede a lot of goals, as you said, against Gil Vicente. A little bit of unlucky because a last minute goal is always a tough one to get. So against Guimarães in the rounds before this loss against Gil Vicente, again a goal at the stoppage time. And in this phase they went to Alvalade. Of course, it was not expected they to win there. So I think Passos Ferreira will eventually get saved because, as you say, they have a good team and the team was working last year. But maybe a bit of unluck in these two last rounds, and the calendar. They played Porto, they played Benfica, they played Sporting, also Braga in these last 2 months. So it's normal that they are struggling, but I won't bet that Passos Ferreira is going down. I think they will stay. They will stay in the league. They have a good team. Probably just a phase for Passos Ferreira.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have enough in the tank to just barely stay up. But another team who I think has had a similar season, going from 7th in the league to currently in the relegation zone, 17th place with 9 games from their first 13 matches, is Murrinhos. Losing 1-0 to Portimonense in their first match under new manager Lito Vidigal. Ailton Boamort getting Portimonense the winner late on. So Portimonense continuing their fantastic form under Paulo Sergio. Murrinhos, on the other hand, having another difficult result to take, going up against Boa Vista in the weekend. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. What have you made of this Murrinhos team, and what are your thoughts on the Lito Vidigal appointment? I know that's caused a lot of, shall we say, controversy in Portuguese circles, who would have liked Moreirense to go with another club. There is a lot of talent, I think, in this team. You got the likes of Felipe Pires, Ibrahima Kamara, Felipe Schwarz, Abdu Conte. I think that they should definitely be doing at least mid-table, and yet currently fighting relegation.
Yeah, so the president of Moreirense, I don't know, maybe panicked a little, choosing Lito Vidigal, because we all know the style that Lito Vidigal likes, and it's as fair as any other style. So this is the way that this coach sees the game, and he has all the for me as all the um, so he can make this path if he chooses. But as you say, maybe a little bit strange, because you can see here players that could play some football that normally the teams of Lito Vidigal does not play. I see a good defensive side, so then maybe the good defensive players with experience. Abdul Conte last year was one of the players that I enjoyed more. And you have Steven Vittori, of course, and Frimpong. So maybe the president looked at this squad and saw that the best way to get some points was focus on defense, and Lito Vidigal is perfect. He is perfect for this. But as you said, I see here a lot of talent. I won't get surprised if Moreirense can get out of here. For me, the two worst teams are Santa Clara and Bessade. So these two, I think, probably will get the two bottom spots, and then will be a fight to see who goes to the playoff. Between these teams that we're talking, Famalicão, Moreirense, Paços de Ferreira, Aroca. I see Aroca falling. They had a good run in the first few games, but now they are struggling in defense. The last game was pathetic against Vizela. They suffer like three goals that you don't see this in professional football. It was an awful night for Roca. But yeah, Moreirense, I think probably will start stacking some points and get out of this situation. I see some talent in this squad.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Santa Clara are in the relegation playoff spot. Moreirense are 17th. Besad are bottom with 8 points, and failing to respond after that, humiliating, embarrassing defeat to Benfica, and losing 1-0 to Estoril Praia. Not a terrible result, I would say, but at the end of the day, they need a point, or at least 3 points. And I think that Estoril, obviously continuing their good run of form under Bruno Pinheiro, pretty one-sided team. 0 shots on target for Belenenses, 7 shots on target for Estoril, 21 shots for Estoril, 7 shots for Besad, and Estoril once again continuing their fine form under Bruno Pinheiro. The newly promoted team currently sit 5th in the league, 24 points from 14 games. That's absolutely phenomenal from their standpoint. In fact, it seems like Bruno Pinheiro's fantastic performances with this Estoril side have actually drawn the attention of some other teams. We've seen Besiktas, who were the champions of Turkey just a few months ago, have had a very difficult start to the season under Sergen Yalçın, which has resulted in Yalçın getting the boot just a few months after winning the title. And one of the coaches that has been named, that has been linked with the vacant position at Besiktas, who currently sits 7th in the Super League, is Bruno Pinheiro. Some other names such as Senol Gomez, the former Turkey manager, but Bruno Pinheiro, another interesting name, especially given the amount of Portuguese coaches and Portuguese players that we've seen make the move to Turkey over the past few months. Just talk to us a little bit about Bruno Pinheiro's style as a coach. What do you think makes this Estoril team so successful? And do you think he'd be a good option for, shall we say, a Champions League team such as Besiktas?
Yeah, for that I think it's still early. He's doing a great job in Sturil. They are the most surprising team in this edition of Liga B Win. They have one loss against Sporting and another against Braga, so results completely normal, and no other loss. And I think what I would say about Sturil is people have to understand that these medium clubs and small clubs have struggled a lot last year. People have to understand that this is not a normal year for these teams. They are coming back from a year with zero money made, a lot of uncertainty, players that didn't know if they're gonna play in Portugal. So this is really a year difficult for the small teams in this championship, and you can see this with the difference for the three big clubs that I think this year is even bigger than in other years because of that. So the job of Sturil, it's perfect. They are like 1 point from Braga, and they have one less than Portimonense. That obviously is another different project and does not go in this reality of small club life. Portimonense has a solid project with a lot of powerful people behind. So Sturil is the only small team that is able to be competitive this year, and I think that tells a lot about his coach and about the club. I have to get my head off for Sturil. It's really been amazing year. But I think it's still early for a jump of the coach to other reality. Honestly, I think it's still early. If I were him, maybe end this season with Sturil and then see what he can do, what he can next. But I think it's still early for that reality.
Absolutely. It's Estoril have had, I think, some similarities with Famalicão just 2 seasons prior.
Yes.
Famalicão obviously getting to the Primera, ending a 20-year wait, I believe, and chasing European football until the final day of the season, where they ended up drawing to Marítimo and losing out on the Europa League spot to Rio Ave. Famalicão, though, should, with the quality of their squad, I think should be chasing top 7, top 6, and yet currently 15th in the league. Level on points with Santa Clara, 1 point ahead of Moreirense, and 2 points ahead of Belenenses SAD. Another very disappointing result from them, losing 4-1 to Benfica. Perhaps not as disappointing as their previous 2 losses to Gil Vicente and Portimonense, considering the fact that this is a team that just qualified for the Champions League round of 16. However, 3 games, 11 goals conceded, 1 goal scored. And this is coming off a run of form where I thought that Famalicão would be able to turn it around, defeating Boavista 5-2, defeating Alverca in the cup. But it does seem like there's no end in sight for Famalicão's struggles. They have a chance to turn things around on Friday, I believe, when they take on Estoril Praia. So interesting how the parallels are happening between the two. And that is an absolutely massive game for Ivo Vieira's side. They are going to, after that game, they're going to take on Portimonense in the Taça de Portugal. Portimonense obviously defeating them 3-0 on November 27th, then facing off against BSAD on December 29th before going up against Braga. So I think a lot of potential for Ivo Vieira to be the next managerial casualty. It does seem like managers are kind of dropping like flies at this rate,
Yeah.
and I don't know. It's so strange to me because obviously we talk a lot about Famalicão, and especially after that dream return to the top flight. Losing all those key players such as Pedro Gonçalves, Uros Rasic. Lost I think just a few players this past summer with Manuel Ugarte and Ruben Vinagre. But with that being said, still brought in some promising players such as Pedro Brazao and Charles Pickle, Simon Banza, who's been one of their better players so far. It just seems a bit strange that they are in this position. But I don't know. How would you diagnose Famalicão's struggles so far? What do you think Ivo Vieira does? What do you think Ivo Vieira needs to do in order to turn things around at Vila Nova de Famalicão? Because it does seem like time is running out for Ivo. He turned things around. He took over in March last season when the club was bottom of the league and managed to get them in the top half with a very strong end to the season. Right now, though, it does seem like the signs are pointing to a mid-season dismissal for Ivo Vieira unless he can turn things around very quickly.
Yeah, this is a coach that I like. I personally like. He's one of my favorite coaches of this from the small club. So I would say that Famalicão has a big problem in his defense, a big problem, because if you see Famalicão can score, they are now in these 3 last rounds. It was only 1 goal, and okay, it was a bad month for them. But I really don't think the problem is from offense, and you saw them create a lot of opportunities against Benfica. But the defense against Benfica was awful. I really think it was really easy for Benfica to break that defense. So Vieira has to improve a lot in this defense, but I think he will make it. Now, as you say, he has this important game against Turil. If he loses, it's gonna be tough for him to stay. But then the next game is against Bensad, and I think he can win. So probably if he can draw against Turil and then a win against Belenenses, and he can, I think he will maintain the spot, but with the mindset on this defense, because it's really poor, as you said. The 3 games, 12 goals against. It's awful, and we saw it against Benfica. It's an awful defense in the moment. So they have to improve a lot. But as you said, Famalicão has a project that I'm surprised they are in this position. I would expect a lot of more. Let's see this next week, as we say, against Turil. What can he do? But I'm surprised with these problems and Famalicão and their lack of competitiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I think that honestly, I respect Famalicão's style of trying to develop young players and bring them in.
Yeah.
But right now, I do think that the problem is in the defense. Luis Jr. in goal has been disappointing. I think after a promising last season, 20 years old. Alexander Penetra, 20 years old, playing alongside Richelli, 23 years old. We've also seen likes of Alex Nascimento, 22 years old, and Dylan Pabutinska, another young Belgian defender. It's interesting though. I mean, they did bring in Bruno Alves in the summer,
Yes.
who only lasted a few weeks because Bruno Alves is gonna Bruno Alves. But I do think that they need to strike a balance, and I'm not going to say that Bruno Alves is the reason is the difference between getting relegated and chasing Europa, but I do feel like okay, last January they brought in two very promising young players, Ruben Vinagre and Manuel Ugarte, who helped turn their season around. This January, I personally think they need some more experience, especially in the back line.
Yeah,
And if that means
agree.
that a young player like Alexander Penetra or Alex Nascimento is going to have to sit on the bench, then so be it. I don't want to scapegoat them, but I do think that they need to learn a lot. And that's the issue, I think, with young goalkeepers and young center backs. I think that's probably the biggest reason why, we typically don't see that much in the way of, especially that's why you'll see a lot of teams that are fighting relegation going with more like firefighters, right? More veterans than youngsters. And I think personally, I think that's what they need. Maybe not to start over them always, but just to compete, to give them a kick up the rump and to get them to get their heads in the game. Because right now, I honestly think that this back four is the biggest reason why Fama are doing so poorly. The rest of the team needs to take accountability, yes, but with that being said, looking very shaky. Just real quick before we move on to another game, Darwin Núñez grabbing a hat trick for Benfica in this 4-1 win. Darwin, riding the bench in Benfica's crucial match against Dynamo Kiev, coming off the bench. But what have you made of Darwin this season? Do you think that he's what is your opinion of his ceiling? What do you think he needs to work on to reach the next level? I know that he's kind of a controversial figure amongst a lot of Benfica fans, but what is your take of him?
Yeah, so Darwin, I think it is improving. It was a bit unfair for him because obviously he was not prepared for a first tier division last year. He was not, even in his last club before he came to Benfica. He had a lot of goals missed, and he was not confident enough. But okay, Benfica saw potential, spent a lot of money, and I think this was bad for him. And this first season of him was clearly to get fit for a club like Benfica, and he have done that with the help of Jorge Jesus, that clearly bets in him, because Jorge Jesus normally doesn't bet in a young player like this, but Darwin has the confidence of the coach, and now he is beginning to show some work, and some coaches work on him also. I see a lot of I see him less stressed in the game, more smiles, more confident, and and when you achieve this level with the talent that he has, because he has, of course, he has some problems with some control of the ball, that it's not perfect. He has to improve that. But in this style of game that Famalicão was not able to contradict Benfica, Darwin it's perfect. And when I think when the first ball enters, Darwin, it's like he breathes out, and you have to expect a good game from him, because when that first ball goes in, Darwin, then it's perfect for him. It's the time of game. So is 19 games, 14 goals. You don't get much better than that. He's been great. I think he has to improve a lot yet, clearly, but he clearly is a player, one of two of Benfica, that is in the right direction. I don't see a lot of players that with Jorge Jesus are getting better, but Darwin Nunes is clearly an exception. He's getting better. Top scorer of Liga. He's been great. I hope to see more of that.
Yeah, and another impressive game from Darwin. Like I said, though, I do think Famalicão really need to bring in some experience in that defense. We've seen that with other teams as well. Eduardo Quaresma. It's funny. I remember after the Sporting Ajax match, the first match between them after Sporting won, I think 5-1. I remember going on to a Twitter Spaces of Sporting fans, and they were saying that basically saying that, oh, we should have never loaned out Eduardo Quaresma. You know, he's a better option than Zuhair Fedal, Luis Neto, all these guys. Eduardo Quaresma, you know, still very young, but not having a great time of it at Tondela. He has not been very good, and you know, hasn't even been a consistent starter for them, but started against Vitória de Guimarães and gave a pretty poor display as Vitória came back and won 5-2. So Quaresma coming off in the 56th minute, and after that we saw Marcus Edwards grab 2 goals, as well as a final goal from Ruben Lameiras. So Vitória, you know, only 7th in the league, so not an amazing start, like I would say for Estoril, but pretty strong form. I mean, if we take away the games that they've played against the big 3, they've beaten Tondela, they've beaten Paços de Ferreira, they've beaten Moreirense in the league, lost Moreirense in the Taça de Portugal, beaten Marítimo, Famalicão, and I think the last league game that they failed to pick up 3 points against a non-Big 3 team was actually on September 28th, I believe, September 18th. Excuse me.
Against Arouca.
Yeah. Against Arouca.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So not too shabby from Vitória de Guimarães, who took a 5-2 win against Tondela. Does seem like we are starting to see some of the some interesting facets of the Pepa side that, you know, worked magic at Paços de Ferreira. But I do want to put a special focus out for Marcus Edwards, who picked up a brace at another very good game. Marcus Edwards, I think the biggest criticism of him has been his lack of consistency, but I do feel like he's been adding a lot of consistency to his game, as well as threat in goal. You know, not just these fancy dribbles and great passes, but really stepping up and delivering in the final third this season. Bagged a brace against Tondela. Previous game got an assist against Paços. Previous game got a penalty goal against Porto. So, you know, he really is doing quite well. I'm curious, what are your thoughts of Marcus Edwards? Do you think he's ready to make the step up to potentially a Premier League side?
Yes, I think he is. I was surprised last year that nobody paid Guimarães some money to to get Edwards in his squad. He's perfect. He has the magic in his feet. He's a player that with a more offensive team can uneven a game like that just in 2 seconds. I really like him, and since the last season, he has some work to do with that consistency, and don't get in low, don't go away from the games that much as he done last season, but this season he has been more consistent. Pepa is the perfect coach for him. Pepa likes a football team that attacks, and so this is perfect for Edwards. And maybe also last season he didn't get that much chance because obviously when you get Quaresma you have to play Quaresma, but now this season Quaresma is more secondary role because of his age. So Marcus Edwards is clearly one of the most exciting players in Liga for me. I like this Vitoria side. It's funny because if you know this club well, they always want this from this team. They want their first of all, they don't want results. As stupid as this can sound, they want to go to a good show. You see this as none other non big team has in Vitoria. The fans want the team to play good. This is a problem because of what? The team are not ready to play against the three big, and they always lose. And this are also points, right? When you have 9 points for each round of the season. So Guimarães very strong against small teams, so they have this identity, and Pepe is perfect for them. They want to play good, they want to win these games, but at the same time, Vitoria are never able to get a plan B for the big matches against Porto and Benfica and Sporting. So, and I think this is the next step for them to really be clearly the fourth, go fight with Braga for the fourth place. And when one of the big three are having a bad year, get that third place that Vitoria wants. But it's an interesting club of that because of that. I know a lot of people there, and they're always telling me this. Here in Vitoria, we want first of all, we want the team to play good football. The results will come after that, but first of all, the team has to play good football.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioning, Vitória de Guimarães. I would say they probably have the biggest fan base in Portugal outside of the big three. Arguably, the second biggest fan base is Boa Vista, who faced off against Sporting at the weekend. The Boa Vista, of course, with their new manager Petit taking over from João Pedro Sousa, and Petit, obviously former Belenenses SAD manager. In his first match in charge, we saw Boa Vista going up against Marítimo, another fairly new manager in Vasco Seabra, and going up early on from Pitar Musa, and yet conceding a last-second equalizer from Henrique to share the spoils with Marítimo. Following match faced off against a Sporting side, who obviously are flying in the league. They did lose a dead rubber to Ajax in the final Champions League match day, but have been phenomenal. I can't remember the last time they lost or if they failed to pick up 3 points in the league. They've been pretty much automatic, despite some big losses in terms of injuries and suspensions. They faced off against Boa Vista with João Paulinho once again missing out due to injury, and Matheus Nunes starting in his place. Manuel Ugarte starting alongside Matheus Nunes in midfield. Flavio Nazinho picking up his first start for Sporting, playing in that left wing back spot. 18 years old, potentially another Nuno Mendes case. We'll have to wait out. We'll have to wait for that one. But Flavio Nazinho starting at the left wing back position, and Paulinho as well missing out due to, I believe, injury. So it was Pedro Gonçalves partnering Nuno Santos and Pablo Sarabia, and Sporting picking up a 2-0 victory against Boa Vista with goals from Sarabia and Nuno Santos. Overall, I actually was somewhat impressed with this performance from Boa Vista. I thought they did well to press high up the pitch. Yes, they were saved a lot by a fine performance in goal from Alireza Beranvand, but I thought that there was a lot to like from this Boa Vista performance, and yet Sporting still finding a way to win fairly comfortably. I might add. What did you make of this performance from Ruben Amorim's side?
Yeah, they are flying. They are flying. They are the best team in Portugal right now, and I really see them getting that second title in a row. Something that Sporting has not able to do like since the 50s, I think. So it's been a long time since Sporting had two in a row. Um, but first about Boavista, I really liked that first half of Boavista. I think in the first 20 minutes, Boavista was really good. they I loved the goalkeeper Ali Reza. He's really good in controlling the space between the defense and him. He was perfect for. I see there some qualities for a top team, because a lot of the work of the goalkeeper in a top team is exactly that, to control the back of the defense. And Boavista had a big chance, and this is always the problem. You cannot, when you are playing in Alvalade, in Luz, and in Dragão, you cannot miss a big chance like that. And then Sporting enter in what Sporting do best. I think Sporting, it's the definition of playing simple. But as someone said, the most difficult thing to do in football is to play simple. But Sporting are really good in this. Very strong defense. They 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 do all things good. Then that line, they start the offense. Normally the midfielders are not that involved in construction. You have Pedro Porra and you have the other defense bringing the game up. And what can I say more about Sporting? They are the favorites. I think they have a very well trained attacking mode. They are back in the defense, and they do a quick pass, a long pass to someone in the wing. That guy in the wing goes like 20 meters in speed, and then he puts the ball in the middle for someone to score. And the two goals are like this. And I've seen this play from Sporting like 100 times since Amorim has come. They are really well coached. As you said, they lost Coates and Palhinha. Didn't matter. They win in Estádio da Luz. They lost now Paulinho, that was playing good. They also did well. Now they lose Pedro Porro. Just today we knew the news are that they will miss a couple of games, and probably they will be as good as they are. Sporting are flying. As I was telling I'll telling early. This championship is not that equilibrado. I don't know how to say it in English. It's
Balanced,
not that balanced.
balanced.
You have the big teams are going to win a lot of games. So this is going all to be decided in the big games, in the classic games. And Sporting
Right.
did a perfect game against Benfica. And even against Porto, they draw in Alvalade. But the first half from for Sporting, they should have been like 2-0 or 3-0, and Porto will not be able to come back with a great goal from Luis Diaz. But I see Sporting very prepared to win points against the Benfica and Porto. They have already 4, so Sporting are flying. It's scary for a Benfica fan. We're not used because for Sporting the big trauma of Sporting is Benfica. You can see it historically, and when they win like that in Benfica, you know that there are problems ahead. Maybe just to finish about Sporting, talk about Pablo Saraiva, that has been a purchase, the purchase of the year. I know he's in loan, but in a loan, but he's been the best player, the best new player in the league. Pablo Saraiva has been great.
Yeah, Sarabia really impressive for Sporting. It is pretty insane how Paris Saint-Germain are paying the entirety of his wages. He's,
Indeed.
been fantastic, and this was uh, definitely. I think that yes, Sporting fans are missing Nuno Mendes, but at the same time, to get Sarabia in return, it's a
Yeah.
pretty damn good deal. So yeah, before we move into, in my opinion, the biggest game of the week, I want to touch up a little bit on this game between two newly promoted sides, Aruca and Vizela. Vizela going to the Estadio Municipal de Aruca and taking a 4-0 lead within the first half via two goals from Guilherme Chetin, one goal from Abdoulaye Ba, and a goal from Samu. Uh, Aruca getting a consolation goal from Andre Bukia, but Vizela leaving Aruca with a 4-1 victory. Very impressive. Vizela still level on points, might I add, with Aruca. They do have a game in hand, but neither side have been that poor, I should say. And Vizela, very strong result, I think, going against a fellow promoted side, bouncing back from that 4-1 loss to Braga. Talk to me a little bit about this Vizela team under Alvaro Pacheco. Any players you think that we should be looking out for on this Vizela team?
Yeah, you saw what Schillaci can do with some space, and I think it's a tough game to talk about Vizela because Aroca was really really bad. I invite our listeners to see the 4 goals from Vizela because there are some goals that you don't see a lot. Some passes from the defense directly to the striker, and it was awful. So I would say that the strength of Vizela is the coach that is perfectly saddled with this club and this squad. I really think that Alvaro Pacheco is the right man for Vizela. Is for me is Vizela. I don't know anyone else from Vizela besides Alvaro Pacheco. So more, more than players, I think they have the perfect match. The coach that is perfect for the club, and he can bring everybody better. Let's remind everybody that Vizela is playing for in the in the Liga B win for the first time in a lot of years. So Vizela is really new for this, and they are competing. They are well. For me, this is clearly the case of a coach that
Yeah, absolutely. Alvaro Pacheco. Absolutely. Pacheco
yeah.
doing a fantastic job. I do hope that Alex Mendez, Los Angeles' own, can get some more minutes, promising American midfielder. But to wrap up, I want to go to the biggest game of the week, which was Porto against Braga. So Porto coming off a pretty disappointing result, which saw them lose 3-1 to Atletico de Madrid. Um, it was a match that they should have won. Honestly, in my opinion, I think they did enough to get that. But at the end of the day, I think that at sometimes the luck does not go in your favor. So Porto are going to be playing Thursday night football in spring, unlike Benfica, unlike Sporting. I believe it would have been an unprecedented feat to see 3 Portuguese teams in the round of 16. So it is a shame, but yeah, losing to Atletico de Madrid at the Estadio de Dragao and then taking on Braga, who have been fairly good and in fairly good form after a difficult start under Carlos Carvalhal. And we saw quite a few changes to that team that lost to Atletico de Madrid. They needed a point at least to go to the round of 16. They failed to do so. So we saw an interesting starting 11 from Sergio Conceição's side. going with Wendell at left back, but perhaps most interestingly, a 4-3-3. 4-3-3 with Marco Grujic, Mateo Sobe, and Vitinha in midfield. Meri Taremi, arguably the best striker in Portugal, getting dropped to the bench. And I would say deservedly so. He really cost Porto the game against with some high-profile misses, and he's going to have to live with that. Obviously, did come on for Evan Nielsen in the 69th minute, but a really interesting setup, I would say, from Sergio Conceição's perspective, going with this 4-3-3 with Uribe, Grujic, and Vitinha, which kind of allowed them to have a numerical advantage in midfield next to Braga's double pivot of Almostrate and Andre Horta, seeing how basically Vitinha and Grujic tried to, off the ball, they tried to press Horta and Almostrate to prevent them from building up, holding up from the back. Uribe on the other end was more like a free man, I would say. Often even slotting in as a middle center back between Chancel and Bemba and Pep. And it was a really interesting game, I think, between two good managers in Sergio Conceição and Carlos Carvalhal. And once again, Luis Diaz coming to the rescue, picking up a crucial goal to seal a hard-fought win against Braga. Porto still top of the league, all level on points with Sporting, and 4 points ahead of Benfica. Talk to me about this match.
Yeah, it was the big match, and I of this week, and I agree with you. Two great coaches that did homework, and Sergio Conceição clearly changing 4-3-3 because of Braga and because of the strength that he thinks that Braga has, and clearly he wanted more people in midfielder position. Otávio is one of the three attackers, but you know how Otávio can do all this midfielder and attacking stuff. So he and Carlos Carvalhal learning the lesson in Estádio da Luz that when you have two last days of rest against these big teams, you have to change your team because they will go by you. These are good players, and you have to change your team. So Braga, I think, was a little sad of this calendar, because of course if the game was on Monday, I think it will be different. Braga had one shot on goal, had a strike in the crossbar, and another opportunity. I remember a big opportunity for Ricardo Horta that he doesn't usually miss in the second half. So this game of Braga, I think they was less fortunate of playing with so little time to prepare. But I would like more to talk about Porto. I think honestly everybody is talking about Benfica, and rightfully so. But I think Porto is also a disappointment this season, really. I think they have a good squad. Sérgio Conceição maintain all the players from last year. A tough transition here for Sérgio Conceição. I don't really know why, but Porto is not playing. Are not playing good football. They were really getting results of this Luis Diaz and Taremi dupla, this duo, and now Taremi is with some problems of a goal scorer. The goal scorers have these phases of when they are not getting a goal. It's really difficult to get that first goal, and Taremi is having problems. So they are offensively. I only see Luis Diaz doing some work. Honestly, they have a good player in the midfield, a lot of good players in the midfield, but I will say Vitinha and Matheus Uribe Uribe, that they are perfect. They are really good. But I don't see Porto that I will say that Porto should have now they have to play better. The the elimination of Champions League, it's not normal. Really, even with the group they have, they had two opportunities of getting that stamp of the last 16. They played against a Milan that was all focused on the derby that they against Inter, that they had 3 days left after. So Porto not normally would not settle for a draw with the game that was, but I really think in the second half Porto lost there the chance of qualifying. And even in Anfield Road, Liverpool played with some backup, and Porto was not able to compete. And then you leave the you leave the Athletic Madrid alive, and Athletic Madrid does this. You don't want to any team in the world. You can be any team in the world. You don't want to be in this position in the last game with Athletic Madrid alive. They do this to you. They are a tough team, and Porto really struggle in the Champions League. It's not normal, and the results in Portugal are not that good. They won a game against Vitória that Vitória was backing them packing them with problems, but then there was a red card that basically settled the match. Portimonense, it's always an easy game for Porto. And then this game against Braga that was with a lot of backup teams, players. But Porto, I don't want to be all negative, because Porto normally has these phases. Porto are really good in January, February, and then March, but normally they don't start that good. And you can see that in the years of Sérgio Conceição. So probably we will see Porto better, but right now I will say that the season of Porto is a disappointment. Not as big as Benfica, but it's a disappointment for me.
Yeah, a lot of work still to be done for Porto, and I think that missing out on the Champions League round of 16 definitely means that winning the league title is all the more important.
Yes.
Without any further ado, though, thank you so much, Thiago, for coming on. It was a real pleasure to have your insight on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, as always, fantastic to speak with you. Thank you to everybody for tuning in on the Cortalinhas podcast. And yeah, anything else you want to say, Thiago?
No, thank you so much. It was great to be here. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Abraço.
Abraço. Bye.
Thank you so much, Thiago. Take